Here we go. Let's Speak Geek.
You're listening to the Geek Speak Radio Show
on the Geek Speak Radio Show. And here we go. Welcome to the Geek Speak Radio Show. Hello, Romo.
What's going on, man?
None much. Hi, I'm Henry, by the way. That's Romo.
Today.
Yes, big day. Big day coming up. We're gonna do it earlier this week. Post it up earlier than usual because we got Thanksgiving coming up later. Probably your favorite holiday, huh?
Yeah, it is, but not after watching a scene in The Walking Dead. I don't think I can eat chicken or turkey this Thanksgiving.
We'll talk TV later on in the show. We'll also talk Hugo, big movie opening this week.
Of course, I think it's gonna be packed.
But before we do that,
let's do what?
The Walt Disney Family Museum trivia questions. Let's do that. So let me read them for this week. Here they are. If you want 4 passes to the Walt Disney Family Museum here in San Francisco and your collector's pin, answer these questions. Ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Everybody ready? Here we go. Number 1, when was Disneyland's opening day? Number 2, true or false? Walt Disney felt satisfied with Disneyland. Nothing more needed to be added ever again. Number 3, don't answer that. Number 3, where did Walt Disney get the inspiration for Main Street, USA? A lot of Disneyland stuff today.
I know.
Number 4, Walt had an apartment in one of the Disneyland buildings. It's still there today. What building is it?
Those are easy.
So there you go. Yeah, if you're a Disneyland aficionado, then you know all the answers. Go to geekspeakradioshow.com. Click on the Walt Disney Family Museum page. They'll be on there. And if you know the answer, 2 ways to tell me. 1, Henry at geekspeakradioshow.com, or publicly on the Facebook page. Let everybody know, hey, I know everything Disneyland.
That's easy. That's really easy.
Yeah, but don't answer them for them. So if you do win, if you randomly pick you to win, what you win is, what do they win?
They win, of course, a 4-pack to attend the Walt Disney Museum.
Family fun pack.
The family pack. But also, they also get themselves their own Walt Disney Family Museum pin, collector's item, that you only could get there, nowhere else, not online.
Not even at Disneyland.
Not even there, yeah.
Unless somebody sells it somewhere.
I doubt it. It looks really cool.
Yeah, so you'll get that if we pick you, that is. Okay, so now, we'll do them again for
we'll do it later on.
ADD people, but we'll do it again later on in the show. We'll talk TV. Next, you ready to talk Hugo?
Of course.
In 3D?
Yeah.
I don't know how we're going to do that. Probably jump through your computer, but we'll figure out a way to do it in 3D. But let's start with Brian Selznick, the author, illustrator of the book, The Invention of Hugo Cabret, which is what the movie is based on. We'll do that in just a few minutes. Don't go anywhere.
Geek Speak Radio Show will be right back.
What do you really know about the life of Walt Disney? Okay, you may know some things about Mickey and Disneyland, but if you think you know more than that, feel free to say something now. We thought so. If you want to get to know the Walt and Disney, the risk-taking and always inventive man behind the magic, visit the Walt Disney Family Museum, filled with interactive stories, movies, music, and original animation in the Presidio, San Francisco.
So how much do you know about Walt Disney? Everyone knows Mickey, but do you know his birthday? The name of Walt Disney's first animation studio? Here's a hint. It wasn't the Walt Disney Studios. Your knowledge of everything Disney will get you a family fun pack, which includes a visit to the Walt Disney Family Museum at the Presidio in San Francisco and a Walt Disney Family Museum souvenir. Just answer 4 Disney trivia questions and you may be one of the random weekly winners chosen throughout the month of November. The questions will be asked on the show and posted on the Geek Speak Radio Show Facebook page. Just post your correct answers and you may be the lucky winner of 4 tickets to the Walt Disney Family Museum and a special Walt Disney Family Museum souvenir. Plus, you'll get to see the new Disney Artists Holiday Wishes exhibition, making its debut this month. Get all the details at geekspeakradioshow.com.
You're listening to the Geek Speak Radio Show.
Now back to the Geek Speak Radio Show.
Welcome back to the Geek Speak Radio Show. I'm Henry. He's Romo.
Yes, I am.
He's getting ready for Thanksgiving.
Oh, of course. I think with my stomach.
Of course he does. But before we do that, big movie. We've been talking about it for a while here on this show.
Can't
talked
wait.
about the book because I read it when it first came out, but now it's a movie.
I know. Can you believe it? Martin Scorsese's going to be a part of it.
Yes. That is called, the book is called The Invention of Hugo Cabret. The movie is called Hugo. We'll talk about the movie, of course, but let's talk about the book first. On the line with us is the writer and illustrator of The Invention of Hugo Cabret and the new book, Wonderstruck, Brian Selznick. Brian, welcome to the Geek Speak Radio Show.
Hey, thanks so much.
Our pleasure. So before we get into Wonderstruck and the movie and everything else, I read The Invention of Hugo Cabret when it first came out, and one thing that struck me about it right off the bat was the style that you wrote it in, which is you incorporate pictures and words to move the story along. So why did you choose to do it that way?
Yeah, I started actually writing the book just as a regular novel with words, and while I was working on it, I was thinking about the fact that the book has a lot to do with the early history of cinema. It's about a kid who meets George Méliès, the great film pioneer, and I was thinking about picture books for younger kids and what happens when you turn the page, and how every time you turn the page, you can move the narrative forward. Like you can think about like The Wild Rumpus in Maurice Sendek's Where the Wild Things Are, where there's no words and every double-page spread is a full picture, and you just turn the page to move the rumpus forward. And so I thought, what if I go back to the text that I'm writing and take out chunks of words and replace them with picture sequences that move the story forward, because I wanted to try to make the book actually feel like a silent movie, because the book has a lot to do with the history of cinema. I thought it would make sense to tell the story like a movie. And so the book was originally like 100 pages, but I would go back and I would take out whenever there was action or description, anything that I could tell just with images, because I didn't want to have any word bubbles or anything, so it had to just be action. If there was dialogue, it had to remain as words on the text pages. So like if it said like the boy followed the old man home, I would take out those 6 words and replace it with pictures of Hugo following the old man through the streets of Paris, to a graveyard, turning corners, and that ended up being 12 pages to illustrate Hugo followed the old man home. So the book grew from 100 pages to the 500 and some odd pages it is today.
Yeah, when I first read it, because I read it when it first came out back in 2007. I had to read it twice because it threw me off the first time I read it, because I tried to read it just as a story, and I was like, wait, I have to read it as a whole complete book. So I like how you did that, actually.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, because I knew when I was working on it that this was something I hadn't seen before, and so I thought I might need to like go gentle with the reader. So that's why the brief introduction, which opens the book, is actually there to try to help the reader understand how to read the book. So it says, basically it says like, welcome to the book. This is what you're going to see. You're going to see a train station. You're going to see this boy follow him, because this is Hugo Cabret. And then you turn the page, and sure enough, there's the train station, and you turn the page, and there's the boy. But then the pictures start doing things that you weren't prepared for. The boy climbs into a vent in the wall and disappears. Then we see an old man in a toy booth, and the boy reappears behind a clock, and he sees the old man and a girl. And so my idea was that the words would sort of lead you into the pictures, then the pictures, in a way, like you would be handed off into the images. And so, so that hopefully once you got into the images, you would be able to figure out how the narrative was being told. But I'm glad that you went back and gave it another chance.
Yeah.
Hey, Brian, it's Romo. You know what? To add to that, what struck me was your artwork and the images that you did for the book. How long does it take you to draw a piece like that?
Well, all of the drawings are done with pencil, and they're all 3 inches by 5 inches, so they're done about 1/4 the size that you see in the book. And so I worked on the entire book for about 2.5 years, and I probably researched the drawings for, I don't know, like a year and a half, and I did little sketches, and I would make these little tiny thumbnail sketches that I would then Xerox and cut up and glue together, and I would make like little dummy books to see how the pages would turn to make sure that the story was being told the way I wanted it to be told. And then after I did all of the research and I photographed models, I found people in real life who looked like the characters in my head, or I turned out to find the guy who posed as George Méliès turned out to be Remy Charlip, who was my favorite childhood writer and illustrator who I befriended around the time I was making Hugo. So I photographed everybody, and then I worked from the photographs and my sketches and the research, and when I sat down to do the finished art that appears in the book, on a good day, I could finish 2 drawings. And then if it was a very complicated picture, it might take a full day or 2 days, and if they were very simple, I might be able to do 3 or 4 in a day. Like there's some pictures, just little pictures of the moon, and I could do a lot of those at night. And or during the day. And so on a good day, it took about I could do two of the drawings, and it took about 9 months to do all of the pictures that appear in the book itself.
Yeah, you don't see artwork like that anymore, especially done with pencils.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, and again, we're talking to Brian Selznick, writer and illustrator of The Invention of Hugo Cabret. Brian, does the character of Hugo Cabret, does he have any of your personality in him?
I think there's a lot of me in everybody. Like, there's a lot of me in the mean, old, cranky George Méliès. There's a lot of me in Isabelle. And there's definitely a lot of me in Hugo. I remember the fact that I did something with my hands as a kid. Like, I could draw, and so my hands were very important to me, and I was very bad at fixing things, and I did not understand machines. But Hugo's connection to machines through his hands is definitely something that I gave to him from my own personality. And it's funny because Hugo's personality really developed after the plot. I was putting together the plot, and I work kind of mechanically, where I think, okay, if this happens here, then this has to happen here, and if I change this has to happen. And it's sort of like, I think of the making of the book sort of like putting together a big machine, like putting together a big clock with all these parts. And there's a conversation that Hugo has with Isabelle in the book where they talk about how machines don't have any extra parts. Every part is there for a purpose. And that's sort of how I thought about the making of the plot. And so the mechanics of the plot happened first, and then I had to come up with the emotional reasons that would propel the character into those situations. So in a way, it was like the emotional stuff came second. And one of the things I didn't know for a long time was what the automaton was going to draw or write, because Hugo has to fix this broken machine, and he finally winds it up when he thinks it's all fixed, and it reveals something that becomes a very important part of the plot. And and it took me a long time to figure that out. And for a long time, I didn't know if Hugo's dad was alive or dead. And I really didn't want to kill Hugo's father for like a year of writing the book. I was like trying desperately to keep Hugo's dad alive, and I think I realized at some point it was probably because my dad had just died right before I started working on the book, and I didn't want to kill Hugo's dad. And I finally realized after like a year of working on the book that Hugo's dad had to die also. And once I realized that, all of the emotional underpinning of the entire story fell into place, and what the automaton did revealed itself to me, and everything suddenly made sense once I allowed that aspect of the story to happen. So I guess the answer is yes. There's a lot of connections that I have with Hugo.
Yeah, I connected with Hugo a lot when I first read it. When I first read it, like I said, my dad passed away a long time ago when I was 11 years old. But that part of the story, a part of Hugo, that's what really connected with me. Then years later, when I read it to my son, what connected with him was not the dad dying, because I'm still here, obviously. But what connected with him was he likes to draw, but he's also really good with Legos. And again, Hugo's really good with fixing clocks and anything mechanical. So that's what connected with him. So this book really connects with that, the emotional side, and also, like you said, with somebody who likes to tinker or who can draw.
Yeah. Oh, good. Yeah. I mean, I feel like when I realized what the plot was, like and I had the plot in place, and I was beginning to put the emotional elements into place. There were a lot of elements in the story, like silent movies and other things that are not necessarily things that modern children care about or know about or think about. And someone had said to me when I was working on Hugo, "You're making a book about French silent movies for children? Like, sounds like a terrible idea. Like, kids don't watch silent movies. They certainly don't watch French silent movies in America." And my editor said this very smart thing, which is that if the reader cares about Hugo, then they'll care about the things that Hugo cares about. And I think that's what ended up happening. It gave the reader an emotional context in which to understand things like silent movies and the tinkering and the machines and the clocks and things like that, so that it's been really gratifying to hear that there are all these different aspects of the story that readers are able to latch onto and connect to, because I know that even though I start mechanically, I know that none of that is going to matter if at the end of the day you don't care about the main character. So even though it's in a way the last thing that I work on, I know that that last part of the puzzle is in a way the most important, and that's what allows us as readers to care about all of the things that happen.
Yeah, it's a theme that gets repeated here on the show a lot. We talk to a lot of the TV show and movie creators, directors, script writers, and they all say the same thing. If we can't get the audience to care about the characters, then we failed.
Yeah, no, that's what it all comes down to. The story's not going to matter if you don't love the people who the story is about in some way. Of course, there's anti-heroes and there's people who who are. Well, it's complicated, but that's I think in some way that is an important core of it.
Yeah, I always say there's always the Sawyers from Lost, who's a little bit of everything in them. And speaking of silent films, why did you decide to put in George Méliès as part of the story?
I had always loved A Trip to the Moon. I had seen it a long time ago and always thought it might be interesting to tell the story about a boy who meets Méliès. Mm-hmm. And I read a book called Edison's Eve by Gabby Woods, which is about the history of automatons. And in that book, it talked about how George Méliès in real life had a collection of automatons that were destroyed and thrown away at the end of his life. And as soon as I read that, I just imagined a kid climbing through the garbage and finding one of those broken machines and trying to fix it. And that was how Hugo began. And then I started researching more about George Méliès's life, and his real life reads like a novel. Like the triumphs, the tragedies, the turn of events, the loss of everything at the end of his life, and then the sudden recognition at the very end. Like it's all built like the narrative of a novel. So my work, while it was hard figuring out exactly what Hugo's story was and weaving it into the real story of George Méliès, but in a way I had this really perfect skeleton of an entire story to work on because I had George Méliès's real life. So in the book and in the movie, almost everything that you see relating to George Méliès is based on something real.
Yeah, and we're talking again to Brian Selznick, writer and illustrator of The Invention of Hugo Cabret, the Caldecott Medal-winning book, which is now a movie called Hugo. And Brian, what was your reaction when you first got the news that not only is it going to be made into a movie, but it will be directed by Martin Scorsese?
Well, I think you could imagine what my reaction was. It was that. Yeah. I mean, it was. I was shocked, and of course, at first, what was thrilling was just finding out that Martin Scorsese had read my book. Like, that was exciting. And then knowing he liked it. Like, I made a book that Martin Scorsese likes. And, and then when I found out he was going to make this movie, it was just... I never would have thought of Martin Scorsese. If someone had talked to me at that time, like, do you think your book could be a movie, which I didn't at the time. I didn't even think it was filmable because for me the book is all about what happens when you turn the page. Even though it's about a celebration of the cinema, it's really about bookmaking. And so I just didn't think it was translatable. And so, I didn't think it could be made into a movie, and I never would have thought of Scorsese, but the second his name was mentioned, I realized there was no one else who could make the movie. I mean, not only is he one of the greatest directors of all time, but he is one of the most important film scholars and film historians and film preservationists. And so he of course got the film references that I made in the book to Jean Vigo and René Clair and François Truffaut and the French directors who I discovered while I was making the book. But he would then be able to tell this story on screen through his brilliant lens of his deep history of deep knowledge of the entire history of cinema. So it was mind-boggling and still feels somewhat unbelievable. But once it became a reality, I just knew he was the right person and could do it unlike anyone else. And I've seen 2 rough cuts of the movie now, and it's stunning. It's and I was crying at the beginning because, there I was. I got the first time I saw it was in Scorsese's private screening room in his office, and so I was there with my boyfriend and some people from Scholastic who helped make the book, and we were all crying just because it was happening and we were seeing it for the first time. But by the end of the movie, we were crying because we were caught up in the story, and I know what happens, and
Yeah.
I was still totally engrossed in this boy, and Asa Butterfield, who plays Hugo on screen, is just brilliant. And when I first met Scorsese in London a couple of months before they started filming, he was talking to me about how excited he was to be working in 3D for the first time, and the special effects and the scale of the sets that Dante Ferretti was making. But he said to me, if we don't care about Hugo, then none of this is going to matter. The most important thing to him was that the audience fall in love with this character. And like we were just talking about, that was my main concern when I was making the book. And so to hear Scorsese say that was his main concern was just amazing. And it's there. Like the love for this character is there on screen, and of course, one of the things I think, of course, drew Scorsese to the book in the first place is the love of cinema is on screen, and I love the fact that he's using 3D, this brand new technology that a lot of people think is a gimmick. And he's telling a story set in 1931, just a couple of years after sound was introduced, which at the time people thought was a gimmick, about the history of film, which, was beginning around the time George Méliès was making movies, and a lot of people thought that was a gimmick at the time. So he's using this technology that's looking forward to the future of movies to look back on this history that he loves so much. And there is a level of joy and excitement in what Scorsese is doing on screen that I think is palpable. You could just feel. I mean, it was hard. I think it was one of the hardest movies I think he's ever made from a technical point of view. But it is joyous in a way that I think is going to excite people who love the cinema.
Yeah, one thing I really like in the Hugo movie, but before we go on, hang on a second.
Spoiler alert.
Because I'm going to give something away, not the whole plot of the movie, but something that's in the book, is how when Isabel and Hugo, when they're researching George Méliès, how today's kids, they're going to like the fact that they can't go to, Wikipedia or Google it or anything. They actually had to go to a research who is this guy? And I like that part in the book.
Yeah, one of the things that I really love about the movie is that Scorsese and John Logan, his screenwriter, take the time to talk about and show the importance of books and reading. There are scenes in libraries, there are scenes in bookstores. Like you said, there's this incredibly important scene that revolves around a book. There's the importance of writing. And, and my book is a celebration of the cinema while underscoring the importance of books and reading. And so the movie becomes this celebration of cinema while also, talking about the fact that books and reading are important as well. And as a bookmaker, that's incredibly gratifying to see that on screen.
Yeah, now the movie Hugo opens November 23rd. We haven't seen it yet, obviously, but I think we're going to be one of the first in line to see it. I haven't seen it yet, but I have a feeling, like the book, this is going to be a great family film once everybody sees it.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, and I feel like it's going to be a really interesting movie for families to see together because, like in a lot of children's movies, there's jokes that go over the kids' heads that are, would be inappropriate if the kids understood them, and like the adults laugh. And there's some jokes in Hugo that I think are going to go over the children's heads, but they're references to Les Miserables and, Wuthering Heights and things that talk about the importance of books and movies. And then because it goes into the history of silent movies and we get to see clips from all of these amazing early films, the adults are going to be able to talk to the kids about movies that they've seen, and it's going to excite the children, I think, to see a lot of movies that they might not otherwise see or know about. And it's sort of a stealth lesson in the history of movies because it's not didactic in any way. While you're watching the movie, I think you're going to be caught up in the story, but after you see the movie, I think you're going to realize, like, oh my God, I just got a master class in the history of cinema and how early special effects were made from one of the greatest teachers of all time. But again, like, that's not the main thing. The main thing is the story of George Méliès and Hugo and Isabelle. But part of the world is this history lesson, and it's a beautiful, really exciting, really fun look at where movies came from.
What was your first reaction when you found out that Chloe Moretz was going to play Isabelle and also Asa Butterfield was going to play Hugo?
Well, one of the weird things about the casting, Ellen Lewis did the casting with Scorsese, as she's done for most of his movies, is like it was all so weirdly perfect. Like every time I found out someone was playing one of the characters and I saw who they were, I was like, oh my God, like that person looks exactly like how I envisioned the character. And Asa is Hugo. Like he looks just the way I drew him. And the thing is, I think this is the first movie that Scorsese has adapted or has filmed that had illustrations. So, the storyboards were there, the characters were there, and Chloe's, she's slightly different from Isabelle in certain ways. In the book, Isabelle has dark hair and Chloe has blonde hair, but the core of who she is and what her relationship to everyone in the movie is, and her relationship to Méliès and the way her friendship with Hugo plays out, it was very haunting to me how perfect everybody was. And I got to go on the set and I met Chloe and I met Asa, and besides the fact they're really great kids, like it was really nice to talk to them, to see how excited they were about the work they were doing, working with Scorsese, being, with the people they were with, very aware that they were doing something that felt special. They're so good. Like, they're professional actors, but and I think Chloe and Asa both approach roles in a different way. I wrote a book called The Hugo Movie Companion about the making of the movie, and I got to interview Chloe and Asa, and they had very different descriptions of how they approach a character. But ultimately, on screen, what you see are these two very real kids interacting with each other and the world around them, trying to make sense of things. And it's beautiful, and I really think Chloe did an incredible job. And I realized I haven't read my book since it came out. Mm-hmm. I've read the screenplay, I've seen the movie now, and so I've recently just gone back and started rereading my book for the first time. And there's differences, they're definitely they're different mediums, and so you need to tell the stories differently. But the heart of what's there, the heart of the characters, the heart of the plot is all there, and the fact that it's Chloe and Asa bringing these characters who are so dear to me to life, it means so much to me.
Yeah, we've spoken to Chloe on the show before, and she is a very mature young lady. So you kind of gave us an idea what you've seen. You said you saw two versions of the film. You've seen the completed film now?
No, I haven't seen the completed film. The first time I saw it, like I said, was in Scorsese's office, and that was really incredible. And there was still a lot of, green screen where they hadn't done with some of the special effects, and there was one voiceover that they changed, and so Marty actually recorded the voiceover that was going to be replaced by Ben Kingsley's voice in the film. So it was really fun to hear this, suddenly there's Marty's voice, like the voice of God, coming over this one sequence. And then I got to see it again when it was the surprise screening at the New York Film Festival, and I saw it with 1,600 people. And Chloe and Asa were both there at the screening, and to experience for the first time the movie with this huge audience who clearly were all swept up in the story and everything was really thrilling. And it was also really interesting for me to see, where a few of the things had nothing major changed, but a few changes in some scenes. Some things got cut shorter, some things got cut longer. Sir Ben Kingsley had recorded his voiceover. And so there were little differences. And I think the film score wasn't finished yet. So we were hearing a very beautiful version of the film score on synthesizers, which to me sounded like a full orchestra, but my God, it's actually being recorded by the London Philharmonic.
Nice.
And so it's going to be, even more incredible when Howard Shore's music is playing, with the full score, and the sound mixing hadn't been done and things like that. But I think the overall core of the movie was in place. And so hopefully, I think I'm going to get to see the finished movie during the press junket, which happens a couple days before the premiere, and I'm excited to see it again.
Would you suggest somebody who hasn't read the book? Would you suggest reading the book first, then seeing the movie, or no?
Well, of course I would suggest reading the book first. You've got to read the book first. But I think I wrote the thing. But I think that for people who don't read the book first, who do see the movie, it will be very interesting to go back and then read the book and see what inspired it. Because, like I said, there are differences. They cut one of my favorite characters. There's a different ending, but they demand that the story be told. It's something that I think will be really interesting for people who go back to people who see the book after the movie. I think will be really excited to see where it came from.
Yeah, and again, we're talking to Brian Selznick, writer, illustrator of The Invention of Hugo Cabret, and also the movie now, Hugo. And before we let you go, Brian, tell us real quick about your new book, Wonderstruck.
Yeah, Wonderstruck is about 100 pages longer than Hugo, and when I finished Hugo, I wanted to take what I learned from that book and try to do something new with it. And so I had the idea to separate the words from the pictures, because Hugo tells this one story with words and pictures, and my goal was that when you finished the book, you wouldn't remember what you had seen and what you had read, that would all form one single narrative. And with Wonderstruck, I wanted to tell two different stories, one with words and a completely separate story with pictures. So I had this idea to try to tell the story of these two deaf characters. The book's Wonderstruck's about these two kids who run away to New York City, one in the 1920s and one in the 1970s. And I thought it might be interesting if I tell the story of a deaf character just with pictures, because I had seen this documentary called Through Deaf Eyes, which talked about the history of deaf education and deaf culture. And it at one point talked about how the deaf are the people of the eye, because sign language is a language that you look at, and when you can't hear, what you see becomes even more important. And so I liked the idea of telling the story of a deaf character just with pictures, so that the way the story is told echoes how they might experience their life. So ultimately, it's also an homage to E.L. Konigsberg's From the Mixed Up Files of Mrs. Basil E. Frankweiler, about two kids who run away to the Metropolitan Museum of Art, which is one of my favorite books, and one of many people's favorite books. Because in my book, both of the kids, in their two different time periods, run away to the Museum of Natural History and have various experiences there. And ultimately, it's about how these kids find their community, how they find their family. And the two stories, the one in words and the one in pictures, weave back and forth, sort of echoing, bouncing off of each other until they come together at the end to create a single narrative.
Yeah, I just finished reading Wonderstruck earlier this week. Got to say, fantastic, love it, great job.
Oh, thank you so much.
So again, Brian Selznick, writer, illustrator of The Invention of Hugo Cabret, Wonderstruck, and the Hugo Movie Companion, out in the stores also, and part of the movie Hugo.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So Brian, thanks a lot for coming on. Wish you continued success, and you're welcome back anytime.
Oh, thanks so much. It was really great to talk to you.
You too.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye, Brian. So there you go. Brian Selznick, writer, illustrator, The Invention of Hugo Cabret. Wonderstruck right here. Just finished Wonderstruck. Loved it.
I'm reading right now the Hugo Movie Companion book, which is really good. And spot on, though. Isa Butterfield.
Yes.
Looks exactly like Hugo.
Yeah, the facial expressions he can make. We haven't seen the movie yet, of course. Nope. It opens this week, so we'll do that. So let's take a little break. We'll come back and continue on the Geek Speak Radio Show.
The Geek Speak Radio Show. We'll be right back.
What do you really know about the life of Walt Disney? Okay, you may know some things about Mickey and Disneyland. But if you think you know more than that, feel free to say something now. We thought so. If you want to get to know the Walt and Disney, the risk-taking and always inventive man behind the magic, visit the Walt Disney Family Museum, filled with interactive stories, movies, music, and original animation in the Presidio, San Francisco.
So how much do you know about Walt Disney? Everyone knows Mickey, but do you know his birthday? The name of Walt Disney's first animation studio? Here's a hint. It wasn't the Walt Disney Studios. Your knowledge of everything Disney will get you a family fun pack, which includes a visit to the Walt Disney Family Museum at the Presidio in San Francisco and a Walt Disney Family Museum souvenir. Just answer 4 Disney trivia questions and you may be one of the random weekly winners chosen throughout the month of November. The questions will be asked on the show and posted on the Geek Speak Radio Show Facebook page. Just post your correct answers and you may be the lucky winner of 4 tickets to the Walt Disney Family Museum and a special Walt Disney Family Museum souvenir. Plus, you'll get to see the new Disney Artists Holiday Wishes exhibition, making its debut this month. Get all the details at geekspeakradioshow.com.
Back to the Geek Speak Radio Show. Now back to the Geek Speak Radio Show.
It is the Geek Speak Radio Show. Honey, I guess it's turned out to be Hugo Day.
It sure is. I'm excited.
Yeah, I just finished talking to Brian Selznick, author and illustrator of The Invention of Hugo Cabret and Wonderstruck. Again, geekspeakradioshow.com on the link section. It's all on there. His new book, Wonderstruck, is pretty good, by the way. I wasn't just saying it because he was on the air with us. It is very good. Just finished it. So, again, Hugo is out this week, just in time for Thanksgiving. And we spoke a few weeks ago to somebody from Pixomondo.
Mm-hmm. Marcus.
He was 3 artists. Yeah, Marcos. He told us about a few Green Lantern and some other movies, including Hugo, that he worked on. Now, how about we talk to someone who actually worked from beginning to end on Hugo itself, on the all the digital effects, because you do have to see this in 3D. You just have to. You've seen it from the trailers. You have to see this in 3D.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
So that would be Natasha Ozoux, VFX producer at Pixomondo, and on Hugo, she's the digital producer. Welcome, Natasha, to the Geek Speak Radio Show.
Well, thank you. Hello.
How are you?
Pretty good, actually. More relaxed now that we've nice and delivered.
Yeah, now that it's finally done. So what exactly did you do on Hugo?
Well, at Pixomondo, we did all of the effects for Hugo. We also outsourced a few of the sequences to other vendors, but we managed the entire show for the clients. And so that took a lot of coordinating. What we did in Los Angeles was work with the clients very closely, Rob Legato and Karen Murphy and Mr. Scorsese, and managed everything that they needed to do that was going to be visual effects for the show. So we were the one-stop shop for them and took care of everything from the preparation of the shots to the compositing to the visual effects.
Now, this movie was filmed in 3D, correct?
Correct.
So can you explain to us what that, and you can get as technical as you want, because with this audience, they'll know exactly what you're talking about. But what does that mean, actually, when a film is actually filmed in 3D as opposed to being post-converted?
So it means that when you are on set and the camera is pointing at the actors, rather than having one camera, you have 2 cameras side by side. Depending on the rig that you use, the camera is either one on top of the other or one next to the other, but it's basically one camera is responsible for each of one eye, how you're going to see the image. And so the rigs are quite complicated, and there are many rigs available. And in one eye, your main dominant eye, you're going to see what the camera sees. And then there's another camera that's set up next to it or on top of it with a mirror, and that sees what your other eye is going to see and sets the convergence point. The convergence point is the point at which your eyes meet in the middle and create an image that you are going to see.
Interesting.
Yeah, and we were going to talk to Chloe Moretz, but she's a little busy, as you can imagine, because today is press day for Hugo.
Yeah.
But not that you're an actor or anything, but do you think it's a little harder for the actors to react to a 3D camera? Because like you said, there's 2 cameras, and usually there's just only one, maybe 2, but not at the same time. Is it a little? Do you think it's a little harder to like hit their marks or things like that when it's filmed in 3D?
I don't think so, because the rig itself is, the 2 cameras are mounted together, and so it moves as one camera. So if the camera's on a tripod or the camera's on a rig, on a body rig that's being just, motion controlled, you're still looking at one big lens. It's inside the camera that the change happens.
Okay, so because what I'm picturing is, you know, actors have to hit their mark exactly right, or they ruin an entire shot because, again, it's being filmed in 3D.
It's not so different as being filmed in 2D. What we're capturing, rather than, if you put your hand over one eye and you look at something, it's a little bit difficult to tell where the depth is. So that's what your second eye does. It gives you that depth information.
Mm-hmm.
So when we're filming in 3D, it doesn't really change the way an actor moves or the way that a scene is built. It's just that we're capturing all of that depth information as it happens. So when you're looking at something and you're looking at it on the screen, it really looks nice and deep and rich, and that you can almost put your hand in there and reach in and grab stuff.
Yeah, and again, we're talking to Natasha Ozoux. She's the VFX producer at Pixomondo and also the digital producer on Hugo, which is opening this week in theaters everywhere in 3D. Now, Natasha, have you gotten a chance to see the finished film?
The finished film, no. I'm actually going to be seeing it on with a bunch of people when it opens on Wednesday. But I've seen it in progress as it's been, you know, evolving and coming together.
Did you ever get a chance to read the book?
Yes, absolutely. I love the book.
And from what you've seen, does it stick pretty close to the book?
Absolutely. We really had a special attention that we paid to Brian Selznick's work when we were doing the film, and sometimes we would be sitting in our screening room trying to find the right way of capturing a shot, and our supervisor, Ben Grossman, would actually go to his desk and grab the book and come back and go, look at the framing, look at what we're seeing here on the image, this is what I want to see, move the camera this way, push the camera in, I want to make the framing really exactly the way that it was intentioned when Brian was writing and doing the drawings.
Yeah, so now I really can't wait to see this movie because I think you pointed it out, Romo, when we talked to Brian, is the artwork in the book and the Invention of Hugo Cabret, some of the most beautiful art I've seen in book in quite a while. And if we're going to be able to see that on screen, that makes the film even better.
Yeah, we definitely paid close attention and tried to make the experience of the book really in line with the experience of the film. I mean, I always don't like it when somebody goes and takes super creative license with a book and then you end up seeing it on screen and you go, but wait, that detail is not the right detail. So when we all love the book, and Mr. Scorsese had the book on set and Brian Selznick was on set, and so it's about making their vision come alive.
And did Brian ever get to see as your work in progress? I know he told me he's seen a couple of versions of the finished film, but was he ever standing there with you guys when you guys were actually working on a scene?
He came to visit the Pixomondo office in Los Angeles a couple of times for sure, and we were sending him some works in progress at some point. He also had some meetings with Rob Legato, the visual effects supervisor for the film, and Mr. Scorsese during the film was happening and was in progress. So he did get to see it at quite a few steps in the middle there.
Yeah,
but it wasn't like he was in the office every day with us, but he did come in and visit, once in a while.
Yeah, and what he has seen, compliment to you guys, he said that it actually made him cry, and that tears of joy, because it was first it's his book coming to life in front of him, and it looks great. I mean, it's a feeling that he just couldn't describe on the air.
I know, I was there when that happened, and it was such a great experience to be sitting with him, and he's sitting in our screening room, and he's holding on to his knees like a 5-year-old, going, oh my gosh, that's my stuff, it's right there, it's on the screen, I can't believe it. So that was a lot of fun.
Yeah. How does that make you feel, you and the rest of the artists, when you see that from the creator?
That's always what we strive for, the work that we do in visual effects, sometimes it's made to disappear in a film. Like, you never know it was there, and you're not supposed to know that you're looking at something that was created in CG. Right. Sometimes you're meant to really showcase your work, and that's why people go see the film. To use an example, a film like Transformers, that's why you go watch it, because there's going to be huge explosions and all kinds of stuff. Right. On a work like Hugo, we do it because we love cinema, and we do it because we love film. Martin Scorsese has a wonderful image in his mind, and he never does anything halfway. So when he decided to delve into the world of 3D and stereoscopic film, he really did his homework, and he did the best job that he could. And he really was able to capture what it means to put you in that place and put you in that train station in the 1930s and make you part of that Hugo world.
Yeah, and Brian mentioned this also during our conversation, but I'm glad that it was that Martin Scorsese did decide to film it in 3D. It's his first 3D film, also, by the way, because
It is.
this, and you've read it, Natasha. The book is not just about Hugo, but it's also about film itself, silent film, but it's still about film. And
Yes.
like Brian mentioned also in the conversation we just finished with him, silent film back then was considered a gimmick, which is kind of like the way people see 3D now. So I love the fact that a film about a gimmick back then is using a quote-unquote gimmick from today.
That's true, and I mean, people didn't know how to react. There's a piece in the film when you go see it where you're looking at an old-time footage of a train coming towards the audience, and you see the audience jump out of the way because they think that the train is actually going to come and hit them. They'd never seen anything like that on screen in the 1920s. And so they didn't know what to do with it. And I think the 3D aspect of that and being able to actually make the train pop out of that screen and almost hit the audience, that's what it's going to feel like. And it's giving them the same feeling in the 1920s with the technology of today.
Yeah, and again, we're talking to Natasha Ozoux, VFX producer at Pixomondo and digital producer for Hugo, which is in theaters as we speak. We're recording this on a Tuesday, so we'll be in theaters in about 24 hours, a little less than 24 hours.
Mm-hmm.
I know, I'm excited.
Yeah, us too. Like I said, I read the book when it first came out, and I love the fact when it was announced that it was going to be made into a movie and in 3D. I think that this film had to be in 3D because, I'm not giving too much away. You've read it, and many people have read it, obviously, since it's such a bestseller. But there are things that Hugo does. Like he fixes clocks, and he lives in a clock. So obviously, the depth that you were describing a minute ago, that is where the 3D is going to come in, right?
Yes, this is definitely not one of those films where we're going to poke stuff at the camera and use it as a gag. This is really a film where it's a love affair to cinema. It's a love affair to the history of film, and we pay homage to all of the early cinema experiences, like Georges Méliès's films. And so what we wanted to give you and what we wanted to give the audience was that feeling of just being immersed in the world and having the color on the screen be so rich and having that depth be such a presence of the film that you just feel like you could really just reach out into the screen and be part of it.
Yeah, some people that have seen it, some critics, and they're all giving it praise, rave reviews, so you guys definitely have a hit on your hands.
I surely hope so. We've got our fingers crossed here, I can tell you.
Yeah, but plus it's got the name Martin Scorsese attached. How can it not be a hit?
Yeah, well, I can tell you it was a lot of fun working for him, and he's a very awe-inspiring person, and you can tell when he's in the room and he knows his stuff. This is his life, and Hugo is his latest baby, and it just was a lot of fun to work with him.
Yeah, when you were in the room with him, when he came over to the Pixomondo offices, I've spoken to some actors who actually have worked on some of his films, and they say he's very animated and he's got a ton of stories. Was he like that when he was there?
Absolutely. The man thinks at the speed of light, and he always has exactly what he wants to do and exactly what he wants to see. And he goes very fast. And you'd think, he's done this so many times before, he'd be kind of, super relaxed about it. But he gets in the room, and boy, you better have all your stuff buttoned up because this man wants to see shots, and he wants to see, all the stuff that you're going to put on screen in front of him. So, we do all of our homework before, we show up prepared, and we put all the images on the screen for him, and he knows exactly what he wants to happen. So it's nice because it gives us such creative freedom to know, he wants it exactly like this, he wants us to change this, he wants us to make this, brighter or bluer or whatever it is. But it's just, he gets the job done. He knows exactly what he wants.
Yeah, and you've seen some great results, not only in probably Hugo, but in some of his other films too. You can see the results of that passion is what I would call it.
Yes, and the team that we had working on Hugo actually worked with him on other films before. So they did Shutter Island with him, and they did other films with him. So it was nice because we had that little shorthand with him. We knew, from prior experience what Hugo was going to feel like. And so this time we added the extra flavor of working in stereoscopic and in 3D. And so that was a new twist on everything. But at least, the people that were working with him and the people that were interacting with him on an everyday basis, they knew him already. So, it made us communicate even better with him.
Yes, I'm assuming just like with one look, you knew exactly what he wanted or what he liked or didn't like.
Pretty much, because sometimes, you get him in the room and he says, yeah, that looks good. And you have to kind of interpret what that means or, make it a little bit better. Well, what does that mean exactly? So, having somebody that's known him and spent a lot of time with him on set and has done multiple films with him, then you're able to have that shorthand with him and make the shot exactly what he wants it to be.
Okay. And Natasha Ozoux, VFX producer, Pixomondo, and digital producer on Hugo, which is out in theaters. Natasha, thanks a lot for coming on. Before I do let you go, one last thing. Can you tease on any other project that you're working on, and what other work we can expect to see in theaters pretty soon from Pixomondo?
That's a tough one. We're definitely working on some fun stuff. I think Pixomondo has worked on a film called Red Tails that is going to be coming out next. And then we're working on a lot of stuff for 2012 and 2013, but that it's going to have to stay a secret for right now.
I was kind of thinking the same thing. It's probably top secret, Henny.
Yeah. Red Tails is produced by some guy that lives here, not too far from us in San Francisco, George Lucas.
That's why it's top secret.
Yeah. Oh, and you guys also worked on a movie that's out on Blu-ray now, Super 8.
Absolutely. That was a nice experience. And we also worked on Green Lantern.
Yeah.
So the work that's in the past I can definitely talk about, but the stuff that's in the future is kind of hush-hush.
Yeah, but it's definitely something we'll talk about on this show because we love all your work because it's the stuff that we geek out about on this show.
Yeah.
So.
Well, you've got plenty of stuff to geek out of Pixomondo, I can tell you that. Stay tuned.
Yeah, we cannot wait for it. So again, Natasha Ozoux, thanks a lot for coming on. Really looking forward to Hugo, and happy holidays to you. And you're welcome back anytime.
Thank you so much. Well, lovely to talk to you.
Thanks, Natasha.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Geek Speak Radio Show will be right back.
What do you really know about the life of Walt Disney? Okay, you may know some things about Mickey and Disneyland, but if you think you know more than that, feel free to say something now. We thought so. If you want to get to know the Walt and Disney, the risk-taking and always inventive man behind the magic, visit the Walt Disney Family Museum, filled with interactive stories, movies, music, and original animation in the Presidio, San Francisco.
So how much do you know about Walt Disney? Everyone knows Mickey, but do you know his birthday? The name of Walt Disney's first animation studio? Here's a hint. It wasn't the Walt Disney Studios. Your knowledge of everything Disney will get you a family fun pack, which includes a visit to the Walt Disney Family Museum at the Presidio in San Francisco and a Walt Disney Family Museum souvenir. Just answer 4 Disney trivia questions and you may be one of the random weekly winners chosen throughout the month of November. The questions will be asked on the show and posted on the Geek Speak Radio Show Facebook page. Just post your correct answers and you may be the lucky winner of 4 tickets to the Walt Disney Family Museum and a special Walt Disney Family Museum souvenir. Plus, you'll get to see the new Disney Artists Holiday Wishes exhibition, making its debut this month. Get all the details at geekspeakradioshow.com.
This is the show where you hear everything geek culture.
Don't be too proud of this technological terror you've constructed.
Now back to the Geek Speak Radio Show.
Actually, I am kind of proud of this technological terror. It is the Geek Speak Radio Show. I'm Henry. He's Romo. Hi. We're here. Okay. By the look in your face, I can see you have a book.
I do have a book.
Okay, hold on. Before we do anything else, that
What?
is a record now. 2 weeks in a row, finally.
Of course. I mean, it is Olivia Munn's book, of course. I mean, it's every geek's fantasy is to know a little bit more about what?
Olivia Munn?
Yeah, she wrote a book called Suck It, Wonder Woman.
Every geek's fantasy?
Of course, mine.
Maybe Brett Ratner's fantasy, but I don't know about all geeks. But anyway, okay, why this book now?
Well, I mean, I read it. I remember when I first saw this, I decided to read it. I mean, it's pretty much just her biography about where she came from, her life story, and how she became.
Just out of curiosity,
what?
Her parents?
Of course, but there's more to that. Her childhood, her life as far as being in high school and how she ended up being, on G4,
Olivia Munn,
and how she became the superwoman. Olivia Munn. I know you're not going to like that because something about you says I can tell you don't like Olivia Munn. I don't know what's up with that, but
I want to be the only one.
Well, what do you mean about that?
Please, this is called the Geek Speak Radio Show. We have nothing but geeks listening. I have over 1 million actually. I've seen our how many people.
But they all
visit
love,
us.
especially girls that could talk geek.
Okay, you're about a year late on this thing.
Oh,
so that's his book, Olivia Munn, Second Wonder Woman. We'll put a link up on the Geek Speak Radio Show, the book club, on our page. It'll be on there. You want to suggest some of yours? Don't. because
Oh.
we're actually going to... The next show, I'll reveal it now. The next show is going to be our last show for this year. Not ever, just for this year. We're going to go on a mid-season break. Hey, Fringe can do it. Grimm can do it. Why can't we?
Yeah, that's true.
That's actually what gave me the idea. Is like, you know what? They're not going to do it.
We're not going to do
I
it.
won't do it either. So, speaking of, let's talk TV. How about that? Okay, you know what? I'm kind of mad because they're going on mid-season break. So, yeah, we know what the Fringe theme sounds like. Did you see them, first of all?
This is this is kind of funny. I'm gonna have to like bite my tongue on this.
Yeah, if you pick up a dictionary somewhere and you look up or go on dictionary.com and look up hypocrite, you'll see Romo's picture there this week.
I didn't watch it.
Yeah, he watched Grimm
and
live.
I watched Grimm. I'm sorry.
See, sometimes I do wish you were a TV show or a video show, because when you walked in, you looked like you were 5 years old and you just stole the cookie from the cookie jar.
Yeah, that's what it
and
was.
You say, really low voice. I kind of watch Grimm live. Like, what? I watch Grimm live. What?
Yeah, I did.
I watch Grimm live, not Fringe.
Well, anyway, I don't know what happened in Fringe. I've been trying to DVR, but something's wrong with my DVR, and now I'm like feeling like a crack fiend because I'm really missing. I need to know what's happening. So I know they ended their mid-season show. I need to know what happened. Henry, tell me.
You haven't seen it yet?
Nope.
Well, then you have to wait till you actually watch it.
Man.
But everybody else who did see it, yes, we liked it. I don't know if you like the cliffhanger that we were left on. Romo wouldn't know because he didn't watch it.
Man.
But, well, we'll see where it goes. So, how about Terra Nova? Did you see that one?
No.
What about Grimm?
Yeah.
What'd you think?
It was good. It was, again, a monster of the week, but I like it. It's kind of...
I usually look it up, but I haven't had time this week. But I couldn't figure out what the fairy tale was this week.
So there was, this was like,
well, the goat,
yeah,
that eats toads
and has a pheromone issue.
Yeah,
and girls are attracted to it. But other than that, I thought it was interesting.
I would have figured you would have gone to research that.
Oh, good one, right? Because I have a problem with the ladies. No,
or they
man.
have a problem with you.
That's a good one.
Yeah, but Terra Nova you didn't see?
No. But I know it talked about Terra Nova and why Terra Nova existed.
Well, hold on. Let me talk this time. Terra Nova, this, again, still hasn't lost me. You're going to like this one when you finally do get to see it, because a lot was revealed finally. In the last 10, 12 minutes, a lot was revealed about Commander Taylor and his son. And here's the big answer. The writing on the waterfalls, the answer was given.
I saw the beginning of it. They were like fishing together.
Yeah.
And something happened where you know what it is? I need to get a new DVR, dude. I'm telling you, something's wrong with it, because that's the only scene I saw.
Clear it out. You don't need to get a new one. Just clear it out.
Oh,
he still has Tower Prep and stuff from last year there.
Yeah, I do. I'm wondering about this show. What's gonna happen?
But Terra Nova really. That's gonna go on a quick break. Also, we're gonna have one more, and then we're gonna get. Speaking of, as we were gonna start the show. Breaking news: NBC just ordered a full season of Grimm.
Yeah, they were loving it.
Fox, your turn. Hello.
Yeah, they need a counter punch with that.
Yes. Just one more. Even if you want to make it the final season, just to announce it. Trust me, we'll all be there, no matter what.
Yeah, we will.
So, Terra Nova, Walking Dead. I heard you and producer Damien talking about it, so obviously you watched it.
Yeah. Given that it's Thanksgiving weekend, the Thanksgiving week, I cannot. There was a scene in the beginning of Walking Dead when the preacher's wife stumbles upon the barn. I'm not saying any spoiler stuff because we all been watching it. We all know. But when she breaks the chicken's legs to feed it to the zombies, yeah.
Made you hungry?
No, I'm not going to eat. I'm not craving turkey this Thanksgiving at all because it just ruined my appetite.
Well, it can't be Thanksgiving without turkey, so how can you not crave turkey?
Yeah, but just to hear the chicken scream like that. Anyway, but Walking Dead, great.
Wouldn't you grow up in a place filled with farms?
Yeah, not like that.
Oh, humane farms.
Yeah.
It is California after all. So, what else are we missing? We talked Terra Nova, talk Grimm, talk Fringe, Walking Dead. Who are we missing? Once Upon a Time?
That show, yeah.
I'm telling you, got to give it a chance. I like this episode. Because, again, it is moving the story forward. It's giving you some answers. Not going to give them out here on the air, but it is moving the story forward.
Yeah.
So, I like that one. I'm telling you, I know it's somewhere in your DVR. You got to look deep in all your millions of shows in there. But find it. You'll like it. Give it a chance. Give it a chance. Once Upon a Time. Okay, so that's our TV talk for this week. Again, The two big ones, Grimm, Fringe, are going to go on a mid-season break. Fringe, I believe, will be back January 15th. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm not. You can check your listings. Grimm is actually coming back December 9th. They're going to try something special December 8th, Thursday, and show the 4 episodes. Actually, Sci-Fi actually is also going to show over Thanksgiving week now. I'm going to show all 4 episodes that have been shown just to see if they can get a new audience.
Sweet.
Which I think they will, because it is a good show.
It is.
We do this, like David Greenwald said when he was going to come on and you had your geek drama queen tantrum.
It happens. I just have a geek. I'm a geek diva.
You're geeka queen. So there you go. There's our TV talk. Where's the questions? You have
the questions are right here.
So go ahead again for the Walt Disney Family Museum. Here are this week's questions.
All right, everyone, get your pens and paper ready. First question: when was Disneyland's opening day? Second question: true or false? Walt felt satisfied with Disneyland. Nothing more needed to be added.
Ever again.
Yes. 3, where did Walt Disney get the inspiration for the Main Street USA? Fourth and last question, Walt had an apartment in one of the Disneyland buildings. It is still there today. What building is it? So there you go. Those are the questions for the family 4-pack.
GeekSpeakRadioShow.com. They will be there on the page. And if you want to answer them, you can. Just send me an email, henry@geekspeakradioshow.com, or go to our Facebook page and post it for the world to see your Disneyland knowledge. A lot of Disneyland questions this week.
That's good, though, because I
think I'm hinting to everybody where I'm going to be over our break.
Disneyland?
Probably. So there you go. And again, you get 4 tickets to the Walt Disney Family Museum here in San Francisco at the Presidio in San Francisco, and a collector's pin that you can't get at Disneyland, you can't get at Disney Parks or in the Disney Store. You can only get it there. Or if you answer one of those questions, all 4 of those questions, and we pick you.
Yeah, sounds like a good deal.
So again, in case you guys missed it when I said it earlier, next week will be our last show ever. No, for 2011 at least. When we come back, not next week, but when we come back, it'll probably be the first week in January. There's going to be a few changes. The biggest one will be obvious. We're going to have a new name. Not too drastic. It'll just be a new name.
It's still going to sound the same.
It'll make sense to you guys once you hear the name. The other thing is a lot more guests and a lot more giveaways for you all. So you guys seem to like that. This is something new that we tried this year, giving you guys giveaways. And who's not going to like something free, especially nowadays? So we'll do a lot more of that. But before we do that, next week will be the season finale. So Graham does it, Fringe does it. We're going to go on a mid-season finale.
Yeah.
I mean, a break. And I figured, why not end it big?
Yeah, how are we going to end it?
Remember last year, and actually he's been here a few times, actually. Rod Roddenberry talked about Trek Nation.
Yes.
Finally,
it's going to be
the rest of the world will see it.
I found a place to be aired.
Next Wednesday, November 3rd, for all Star Trek fans, that's your new Christmas. Because the Science Channel is going to premiere at 8 o'clock Eastern Pacific, Trek Nation in its entirety.
Wow, that's big.
So I figured, well, how else will we celebrate it but talking to Rod? So we'll talk to Rod Roddenberry again next week. He'll come on and tell us how he feels about it.
That's every Trekkie's dream.
I think I'll ask him anyway, but I think I can answer for him how he feels.
Yeah.
Whew, finally.
Yeah.
So, and it's not just Star Trek. I mean, I know it's called Trek Nation, but it's kind of like Walt Disney. When you talk about Walt Disney and this museum, the Walt Disney Family Museum, it's all about Walt Disney, the man, his story, not Mickey and Disney and all that. Although that's in there, because how can you not talk about Disney, the company, and Mickey when you talk about Walt Disney? Same thing with Gene Roddenberry. When you talk about his story, you can't start and end with Star Trek, because he did some things, believe it or not, before Star Trek and even after Star Trek.
Yeah.
So that's what this is about. And it's also very personal film. And you guys have heard him every time he's been on the show before. Rod, it's a journey for him to find out more about his dad, because it's no big secret. He's mentioned it on air before. I think he said it the first time he was on with us, that he was kind of a rebel when he was younger. Yeah. And it's like most kids are.
Especially, a lot of teenagers are like that. They like to rebel against their father.
I know what he's talking about there, because when I was younger, my dad used to own a grocery store, and it was just expected that I was just going to take over the family business. And I rebelled and said, I don't want to work in a store. I don't want to do that. And obviously, I don't.
Yeah.
Rod was the same way. I don't want to be part of this Star Trek thing. Nah, that's dumb. This guy with pointy ears. Who cares about that stuff? But after his dad passed away, and he saw, like he mentioned, he's seen how everybody, not just actors and fans, but how the world really responded to Star Trek and the message behind Star Trek.
Yeah, I mean, you cannot think Star Trek without thinking Gene Roddenberry.
Yeah, and well, we'll just talk about that again with Rod. Again, finally, Trek Nation will make its premiere next Wednesday, November 30th, 8 p.m. Eastern and Pacific on Science Channel, part of the Discovery Channel. Science Channel, really cool place. Takes a lot for me to not watch Modern Family on Wednesdays. This is big enough for me not to watch it. I'll DVR Modern Family next week.
Hey, I could DVR it for you.
Yeah, maybe if you have space in yours, you got to clean it out.
Yeah, it'd probably be broken by then. But anyway, sounds like an awesome... I can't wait.
That's what we'll do. And also we'll talk to somebody from Science Channel. Not sure exactly who yet, but somebody from Science Channel. I'm thinking probably the executive producer for Trek Nation. Her name is Bernadette McDade.
Oh, nice.
She'll probably come on, but no promises.
Yeah.
Still need confirmation. But Rod, for sure, he will be coming on to talk about Trek Nation. Who else will we talk to about that? Every time we do this, I always get the email. So before you guys inundate my email box, the last time we had Star Trek Day, we had Nicholas Meyer and Paula Blog and Rod also for Star Trek Day.
That was a big day.
Got a bunch of emails. What about Star Wars? You always talk about Star Trek, no Star Wars. Got you covered too. We're going to end with Star Trek and Star Wars. Well, sort of. We'll discuss Star Wars, of course. Remember earlier this year, I spoke to somebody who did he called it at the time, fanumentary on Star Wars called Star Wars Begins. Jamie Benning is his name.
Yeah.
He's doing a new one. He teased it actually when he was on the air with us. He teased that the next one could be Jaws or Raiders.
Oh, sweet.
It's not ready yet. He's working on it, but it's called Raiding the Lost Ark. And it's the exact same thing, but all Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Cool.
And we did ask him when he was on with us earlier this year. We did ask him what he thought of the changes. I mean, we didn't even know about the yet that George Lucas was making in the Blu-rays. He didn't really have too much comment because, like I said, we didn't know that much at that time. Now we do. Everybody owns it because biggest selling Blu-ray ever. Yeah, and you hate it. Of course you do. So we'll ask him about that. We'll talk about Blu-rays and what he thought and why his films aren't part of the specials.
Yeah.
And of course, we'll tease Raiders.
Yeah.
So we're going to end with Star Trek, Star Wars, and Raiders.
That's some interesting questions to ask him, especially with what he feels about Star Wars being re-released in 3D.
What else? That's it, I think, unless we get something else. That's going to be a great
show, though.
Yeah, and again, it'll be our last one, season finale. Tell your friends about it. And again, when we do come back, January 2012, first week in January probably is what I'm shooting for. We will come back with a brand new name. Not too drastic. And again, when you see it, it'll make perfect sense to you guys.
Will do.
What else?
That's still going to be geeky, though.
Yeah, we gave the questions. We gave everything else. That's it. Again, go see Hugo. It is a good movie. You heard it from Brian Selznick. And who else was on with us? Natasha also was on. She actually, her and her team, because it wasn't just Natasha by herself. It was a whole team
at Pixomondo
that made it come to 3D life.
Yeah.
How to Pixomondo. All the links are up on geekspeakradioshow.com. So, ready for Thanksgiving?
I'm ready.
Okay, let's loosen up your belt. Get ready for turkey. And we'll see you next week. Bye.
See ya.
That's all for this week. The Geek Speak Radio Show will be back next week with a brand new episode. In the meantime, follow them on Twitter at Geek Speak Radio 1. That's Geek Speak Radio, the number 1. Become a fan on Facebook. And don't forget to subscribe on iTunes. If you like this episode, wait till next week and tell all your friends too. This is the Geek Speak Radio Show.